Okay, how about the New Age? New Age spiritualism. We probably all know people who've become involved in one way or another. Personally, I know people involved in spirit mediums. I know people involved in Reiki and transcendental meditation. Isn't it harmless? Isn't it just harmless? Don't worry about that. Well, let's see. In the New Age, human problems, our human condition, it stems from ignorance of our true potential. We must break through to a whole new consciousness. Different names for this consciousness. I come across God consciousness a lot. But we must realize our own divinity. So, as we all become more enlightened, a critical shift will take place, and our species will take the ultimate step in the evolutionary process. Man is God. Man is God. And what is God? Well, God is not a personal God. God does not have a name. God does not have a human face. God is impersonal. God is an energy, a force that permeates all things. So the ultimate reality is that all is one. God, man, animals, plants, inorganic matter. If man is really God consciousness, and there's no distinction between anything, then we've reached the stage where human dignity has been reimagined and engulfed by something larger. One simply cannot dabble in New Age spiritualisms and still call yourselves in any meaningful way Catholic. Because God is different. Humanity is different. The world is different. So from our point of view, the main difference between the Christian understanding of humanity and the New Age is that in the New Age spiritualisms, man perfects himself. Man lifts himself by his own bootstraps. We don't rely on God for salvation. Why? Well, because we are salvation. We are God consciousness. Some of you might know John Pridmore. He makes a comment in his book, which is really good. He said that in Christianity, we come closest to God when we are at our most imperfect, when we're at our weakest, when we are at our most broken, because it's then that Christ can come and reach out to us. Well, that's the opposite of what the New Age involves. So human dignity is engulfed in the New Age by, I suppose, a greater reality, the cosmic divine consciousness of all things. And there's a crossover that perhaps we should be aware of, that we're beginning to see more and more within the environmental movement. Environmentalism in itself, the responsible guardianship and protection of the natural world, is something we rightly educate ourselves and our children to participate in. And I should say, I can be an undeconstructed redneck at the best of times, but I do recycle. Okay, I do, where I'm working, we recycle, we get all our organic waste and put into a compost. So I'm signed up for all of that, and that is responsible. Okay. The problem is that environmentalism is no longer just a movement dedicated to conserving resources, preserving pristine areas, and protecting endangered species. Environmentalism has its extreme ideologists. Called the Deep Ecology Movement, it was inspired by a Norwegian philosopher, Arne Næss, in the 1970s, and it promotes an environmental egalitarianism based on the belief that nature and all its parts should be valued equally with human beings. Again, sounds harmless. Sounds harmless. But we're beginning to see more and more that the natural world ranks as valuable as a human being. Human beings no longer are the most valuable beings in existence. So let's look at examples of this environmental egalitarianism. The Swiss government has declared that individual plants have intrinsic dignity and that decapitating wildflowers is a great moral wrong. The rule, based on a constitutional amendment, came into being after the Swiss Parliament asked a panel of philosophers, lawyers, geneticists and theologians to establish the meaning of a plant's dignity. In April last year, the team published a 22-page treatise on, quote, the moral consideration of plants. It stated that it is immoral to arbitrarily harm plants by, say, and this is a quote, decapitating wildflowers at the roadside without rational reason. Now, I have a little boy. He's not quite 2 yet. We live in the country down a little lane. And there's nothing he likes more than picking dandelions and giving them to my wife. I didn't know it was immoral. You know, I'm going to have to tell him that's immoral. I don't know. He'll be doing hard drugs by the time he's 6. I don't know what to do. So much for Spanish government and the Swiss government. How about Ecuador? Well, in Ecuador, they have a new constitution which provides for, quote, the rights of nature that are equal to those of Homo sapiens. So here's the problem. If the rights of nature are raised up, if the natural world ranks as high as humanity, inevitably the unique status of human life begins to disappear. We come to understand ourselves not as beings with an inexhaustible value, but as a burden to the planet. Environmentalism now contains elements of an anti-human ideology that increasingly disdains humankind as a scourge that literally threatens the existence of the planet. Once flora and fauna were elevated to the level of human importance, as we've seen in Spain, Switzerland and Ecuador, it hasn't taken too long to brand the notion of human life as the highest and most valuable life on earth, as arrogant and harmful to nature. Some of you might know the writer William Burroughs. He once said that man is a bad animal. Well, we're even below the bad animal stage. Even bad animals, whatever that is, are protected by law. So, man is a virus. Paul Watson, head of the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society, says, the planet's ecosystem is a collective living organism and operates very much like the human body. Humans are presently acting upon this body in the same manner as an invasive virus, with the result that we are eroding the ecological immune system. A virus kills its host, and that is exactly what we are doing with our planet's support system. Curing a body of cancer requires radical and invasive therapy, and therefore curing the biosphere of the human virus will also require a radical and invasive approach. So man is akin to a virus. So some deep ecologists push radical depopulation, perhaps to as few as 500 million worldwide. That's the best medicine to cure the world of the human infection. So with the Judeo-Christian God rejected, humanity is rejected too. The Christian notion of what a human being has been overtaken in parts of our culture by the notion that the planet is the highest reality and that the biosphere is the most valuable reality. Now, I've spoken about some of the alternatives, and I've spoken about the alternatives that come from within the West. There are, again, many alternatives that come from outside the West. But we'll just stay with the West. And look, everything I've said, it's all very bleak. But there's no point getting depressed.